What is your name, and when did you arrive in Argentina?
My name is Lada. I arrived in Argentina at the beginning of January.
What was the purpose of your trip?
I came to relax and to see Argentina. I had heard a lot about it.
Where were you before you arrived? Where did you come from?
I am originally from Russia.
Who were you staying with while you were here as a tourist?
I was living alone.
Were you in contact with Konstantin Rudnev's group or with Konstantin Rudnev himself?
No, I didn't know anyone.
How did the moment of your detention happen?
Oh, it was a very difficult time. I went to a store with an acquaintance to buy some things. We were going down to the parking lot when a man and a woman suddenly rushed at me. They came up from behind, told me to put my phone away, and immediately began questioning me. They demanded that I go with them to a police station and waved handcuffs. I asked what was happening, but no one answered what was going on, what the reason for the detention was, or who these people even were. For 5 hours, you could say, they tormented us in the parking lot. They shouted and threatened. The interrogation took place right there in the parking lot. They made me undress. I already told this.
And how exactly did the detention unfold? How were you treated? And what did they say to you?
There were many people, many men. They were all in plain clothes. There were 2 of us women, my acquaintance and me. They applied intense emotional pressure.
Was your acquaintance detained as well?
Yes, that is Vera.
One of the women here, correct?
Yes. They brought some documents and tried to force us to sign them without an interpreter.
Did you come from Russia with your friend or with other people?
No, I did not travel with her. I arrived alone.
You met her here?
Yes.
How long were you held in a cell?
I was held for 4 days. Those were the most terrible days. If possible, I can explain in detail.
What happened there?
It was horrible. When they took us to the police station, it was already late evening. Before bringing us there, they drove us around Bariloche in handcuffs for about an hour.
Antes de llevar a la comisaría, cerca de una hora, estaban llevando alrededor de las calles de Bariloche, para allá y para acá, esposadas.
It turned out they were filming.
Es porque estaban haciendo sus grabaciones.
Several times, they made us get out of the car and get back in, again and again.
Algunas veces les pedían salir del auto, filmaban, después entrar en el auto y de nuevo sacaban fotos. Parecía que éramos macacos para ellos.
As if we were animals. Probably the entire police department took photos with us as if we were criminals.
Los funcionarios de la comisaría tomó las fotos con nosotros como las criminales muy terribles.
It was very cold outside. I had no warm clothes because I didn't have time to take my jacket. I was wearing a t-shirt. When we arrived at the station, it was very late. They took our fingerprints for about 4 hours, every single print, as if we were dangerous criminals. Then they put us into separate cells, where we were not allowed to speak to each other. They were very dirty, smelly, without light, tiny rooms, in unsanitary conditions. We were not given food or allowed to use the toilet. We were not allowed to do anything, only sit and stare at one point.
At any moment before, during, or after this, did anyone ask whether you were a victim of Konstantin Rudnev?
В какой-то момент, когда вы, может быть, до того, как вы вас туда посадили, либо во время, либо после, кто-то вам спрашивал, являетесь ли вы жертвой Константина Руднева?
No, no one asked me that. I only learned about it at the second hearing.
Nadie me preguntó nada y solo escuché este nombre ya en la audiencia, en la segunda audiencia.
The first hearing took place a few days later. The judge acquitted us. We were allowed to be free. But after we left the courtroom, they kept us in detention for about 5 more hours.
Ordenó devolver los pasaportes y liberarnos, pero después de esto nos retuvieron por unas 5 horas más y no nos devolvieron los documentos.
Even though they had announced our immediate release.
Pero el juez ordenó libertad inmediata a partir del lugar y hora.
They did not return our documents and released us into Bariloche. With nowhere to go, yet even hostels require identification.
Why do you think you are being accused of being part of a human trafficking organization?
I think it is complete nonsense, because at that time, Russians were being detained indiscriminately. Everyone was being rounded up, so I was simply among those random people.
Me parece que es total idiotice porque en aquel momento todos los rusos que estaban, ellos estaban agarrando y poniendo en la cárcel y yo estoy entre estas personas.
Do you think you were detained because you are Russian?
¿Вы думаете, что вас задержали, потому что вы русская?
In part, yes.
También.
If you had been a different nationality, do you think you would not have been detained?
То есть, если вы бы были другой национальности, вы думаете, что вас бы не задержали?
I think so.
Думаю, что да. Pienso que así es.
Had you heard anything about the alleged victim RT?
Вы слышали что-то о предполагаемой жертве РТ? Ну, жертва.
No, I didn't know anything before this situation.
Antes de la situación no sabía.
Did you have an opportunity to speak before the judge or prosecutors?
Была ли у вас возможность высказаться, ну вот перед, получается, там судьей или фискалами, сказать что-то?
Once I managed to say, "Please release me. I am not guilty of anything." That was during the first hearing. It was very brief. I explained why I was not guilty and that I should be released. That was the first and last time. No one has asked me anything since.
Please remind us what you did in Russia and how you support yourself now. So,
И напомните, пожалуйста, чем вы занимались в России и как вы сейчас содержите, ну вот свое существование, получается, как вы раньше жили и как вы сейчас.
I am a creative person. I am a designer, an artist, and a musician. Now my relatives help me. My grandmother gives her last pension money to send me something. It is very hard. I am barely making ends meet.
your family and friends are helping you?
Yes.
What would you like to say to the judge in this case?
He needs to be very attentive to this case. He should pay attention to the evidence the defense has already presented. He should not be afraid to move the case forward. He should not be afraid to release innocent people. He should not be afraid to grant Konstantin house arrest. Because the versions presented by the prosecution are completely unfounded. There is no evidence. We must be honest.